Solo para nosotros.
Hi, how are you?
¿Cómo están? Hola, nuestros egresados, bienvenidos. ¿Cómo están nuevamente en este espacio? Nos alegra tenerlos a ustedes en este encuentro de inserción laboral. Estamos con la Embajada de Australia y su equipo de trabajo, ya Tatiana Huertas, quien nos acompaña en esta oportunidad, nos va a comentar quién está con nosotros. Tenemos estas oportunidades para ustedes. Espero que disfruten mucho de este webinar, de los temas que acabamos de trabajar, y nosotros desde Regresa y el equipo de psicólogos que estamos detrás de esto, pues queremos que ustedes siempre estén acompañados de su alma mater, de su universidad, y este espacio es para ustedes. Mi nombre es Laura Catalina, con varios de ustedes seguramente ya he tenido un tipo de acercamiento y me alegra mucho tenerlos por acá. Recuerden que Regresas para ustedes, la Dirección de Relaciones con Egresados siempre tiene las puertas abiertas para recibirlos, para apoyarlos y para acompañarlos, y siempre estamos innovando y queriendo ofrecer este tipo de espacios tan enriquecedores para ustedes. Entonces disfrútenselo, cualquier duda que tengan, pueden por favor activar sus micrófonos, pueden por favor realizar sus preguntas. La dinámica que vamos a manejar en este espacio es, vamos a esperar entonces a realizar toda la presentación para que al finalizar puedan realizar entonces ustedes sus preguntas activando sus micrófonos, siendo lo más dinámico posible este espacio, lo más interactivo que podamos. Tatiana, gracias a ti por este espacio, gracias a tu equipo por estar con nosotros. Te cedo la palabra. Tú sabes que para nosotros es un placer tenerte, a ti como embajada de Australia. Entonces, pues este espacio es tuyo y estos egresados son tuyos para que nos des esa información tan valiosa. Gracias.
Claro que sí, Laura, muchísimas gracias. Bueno, nosotros no somos la embajada, somos certificados y avalados por la embajada para brindar toda la información sobre temas migratorios y, por supuesto, para poder acompañar a las personas que quieran recibir apoyo y asesoría y acompañamiento en todos los procesos, tanto de migración como de educación. Somos EMSA, por nuestra sigla en inglés, somos Education and Migration Services y Australia. Tenemos estos dos servicios en uno solo, temas de educación representando escuelas y universidades para perfeccionamiento, aprendizaje del idioma, o si ya tuvieran el idioma, aplicar a posgrados, maestrías o doctorados. Y en temas de migración estamos avalados por la embajada y el gobierno australiano a través del MARA, que por su sigla en inglés es el Migration Agent Registration Authority, que es una autoridad del gobierno australiano que nos regula, nos certifica y nos avala para poder aplicar a visas de trabajo, de residencia, de ciudadanía, visas de patrocinio, visas de pareja. El día de hoy estamos en compañía de Paola Osorio y Nikki. Nikki es la profesora y la coordinadora académica de uno de nuestros aliados estratégicos, que es SASE College, que tiene sedes tanto en Adelaide como en Melbourne. Paola Osorio es la representante para la TAM acá en Colombia. Y Nikki se va a encargar de toda la parte y toda la presentación de cómo manejar una hoja de vida y cómo manejar una entrevista en inglés. A veces tenemos dificultades al momento de que queremos aplicar a postulaciones internacionales o inclusive acá en Colombia en multinacionales, en temas de cómo manejar esta entrevista, cómo manejar, si a veces se nos dificulta en español, pues a veces y con mayor razón en inglés. Entonces Nikki se va a encargar de toda esta parte de presentación. Ella solo habla en inglés, por eso pedimos encarecidamente que quienes participen en este evento tengan ojalá un nivel intermedio y mejor aún avanzado. Y Paola es quien nos va a aclarar dudas sobre el colegio, sobre el college, si alguien está interesado en mejorar su nivel, en presentar un examen internacional como el IELTS, el Cambridge, el TOEFL o el PTA. Ella les va a explicar un poco cómo pueden acceder a este tipo de cursos. Incluso hay algunos beneficios para estudiantes internacionales mientras abren fronteras. Entonces, si gustan, arrancamos de una vez con lo prometido. Hi, Nikki. This is your auditorium. We have 123 people waiting for you. Yes. Nikki is the teacher and the academic coordinator from Salsa College. And she specialized to prepare students for English and present and prepare some exam like IELTS, Cambridge, TOEFL, or PE. So welcome. These people is yours.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Tatiana. Thanks for explaining everything. So, hello, everybody. It's really nice to meet you, even though with most of you, I can only see your names, but I can see a few faces. So thanks for joining me this evening. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about where I am to start with. So, all right. So here I am in Adelaide, in the south of Australia. And like Tatiana said, I work for an English college called SACE. So have any of you been to Adelaide? Let me see in the chat. Okay, maybe not. All right. No, sorry. Okay, thank you. No, all right. Maybe one day. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Well, I'll just show you where it is. So it's here in South Australia, and do you know which is the if Adelaide's a big city or a small city? Because it's quite actually quite a small, no idea. All right, it's quite a small city, maybe 1 million-ish people. Yeah, it is small. So it's not as big as Bogota, all right? But it's a beautiful place, all right, to live and work, because I know we're going to be talking a bit about work today. So do you know what the biggest city is in Australia? All right, it's Sydney. Yeah, Sydney. That's right, Ricardo. Okay, good. And do you know what the capital city is? Okay, cool. All right, I like the kangaroo. Yes, Canberra. Okay, good. All right, so I'm just going to show you a little bit about where I am right now. And as you can see, oh, sorry. As you can see, here are some pictures of where I am in the south of Australia. So does anyone know the name of the animals there on the left? Because they're not actually in the city, obviously. Okay, they're sea lions or seals. There might even be seals. Yeah. Okay. And what's the public transport there and in the middle photograph? What kind of transport is that? Okay, trams, that's right. Yeah, it's more trams, I think, with the electric lines along the top. So Adelaide has trams and buses and really easy transport, all right? And the building that you can see there on the right is where I am in Adelaide right now, which is a beautiful old building and where our school is that I hope you can visit one day. Okay, I put the seals and the sea lions in there because they're on an island near Adelaide where people like to go at the weekend. Yeah, it is very nice. All right. Okay. Tatiana mentioned that you are all thinking about work, or some of you are thinking about work and finding jobs, maybe finding jobs in Australia or even Adelaide, because a lot of our students, even though they're studying, they work part-time. Maybe a bit like you right now, you might be studying and working part-time too. So I wondered if you have any idea about these questions. So what do you think, what kind of work do international students do in Adelaide? And how do they find work? And what qualifications do you need? What are the biggest industries, do you think, around Adelaide? I know you've all said you haven't been, so that might be a guess. And is it easy to find work? Okay, so I can see some of you are already writing some ideas in here. For number 1, restaurants, okay, yeah. All right, so Camilla has said non-professional. So I think by that maybe you mean kind of casual work like restaurants and hospitality, tourism. Okay, that's right. Okay, maybe some of the students are cleaning. I know some students who have made their own cleaning business, which is going very well. So it's kind of, yeah, student jobs, yeah. All right, bars, nanny, delivery. Okay, good. Yeah. So how do students find work, do you think, who come to Australia? I don't think there's an age limit, Rosemary. How do you find work if you come to Australia? Okay. All right, good. Word of mouth, contacts, agencies, yeah. Maybe some students send their CVs or resumes. They take their CVs or resumes to bars and restaurants and ask for work. Friends, yeah. All right, let's have a look at number 3. Yeah, that's right, Stephanie. Let's have a look at number 3 about qualifications. Does anyone know what kind of qualifications you might need? All right, something, yeah. English, yes, we hope. Okay, yeah, because some students come, like Lorena has said, and Marta has said, some students come with very basic English and then study English at the school and work at the same time. So I'm not sure if we always need to have a really high level English at the start for these kind of jobs. Web developer, yeah, maybe. Yeah, the working online is a good idea, I think. Obviously, then you'd be going through websites, job websites, but the hour difference could work for you or against you, depending on how flexible the employer is. Okay, what about number 4? I think the maximum age, I'm not sure, but the minimum age would be 18, I think. All right, so for number 3, somebody's asked me to explain a little bit more about the qualifications. I think really what I mean here is what qualifications you need to get a student visa or to come into the country and study and work. Yeah, if you're going for a more highly professional job, then you would need to have your undergraduate or postgraduate degree in that specific field. All right, what about number 4? The biggest industries in and around Australia. Okay, farming, mining. Ah, mining, okay. I think that's more in the west of Australia, but yes. Okay, tourism's a big one. Okay, question number 5. Is it easy to find work in Australia? Lots of people are already asking me that in the chat. I would say depending on what kind of work, yes, I think finding casual work, a lot of our students do find casual work in hospitality, which means restaurants and bars, and other kind of student style jobs. And other students study to do a master's or a further degree in Australia, and that kind of specializes them into a more professional job. So these are my answers. So number 4, the industries around Adelaide: wine industry, energy, gas, defense, and emerging space exploration. So maybe, you know, that somebody's asked about STEM, you know, specializing in that kind of area might lead to higher paid work, certainly. Okay. Yes, with COVID, somebody's asked about COVID, we do have to kind of wait until the borders open, which our government is currently discussing for South Australia. All right, thank you for your questions so far. I can't really get into all the specifics about visas and things here, but I know that Paola maybe can help with that kind of stuff. That's more her area, I think, than mine. But this gives you a general idea about the kind of work you can get, I think, in Australia. Okay, so how are you finding jobs? How do you normally find jobs? Somebody asked about looking for work online. So do you use any of these job websites when you're looking for work? Are any of these kind of popular in your country? Yeah. Okay, LinkedIn. Everyone's saying LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay. So great. Obviously, it's important with LinkedIn to keep your skills up to date and have that summary. I'm saying this even though my LinkedIn isn't that necessarily up to date, but to have your summary at the top and have all your qualifications and experience there. So LinkedIn is really useful. Okay, Glassdoor, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so if you're already using these, you know a little bit about the process that you can, you find jobs on there, you go on to the application, you click on apply, look at the position description, and then normally there are the essential requirements for the job. And normally you have to write between 200 and 500 words in your job application about why you fit that requirement for each one. So maybe some of you have been doing that already. It does take a lot of work. But also on the application form for a job, you normally have to also upload your CV, okay, or your resume. And let's just talk a little bit about that. All right, so here are 3 different kind of resumes. Obviously the layout on each of these is a little bit different, but what do they have in common? What sections do all CVs have in them? Okay, profile, yeah. Okay, skills, yeah. I'm not sure how it works where you are, because I know in the USA, they often want people to put a picture there and then have something at the top about their skills before the CV starts. But often in England and Australia, people don't always put that in, but definitely experience, skills, education. But what I was talking about, that sometimes in the US and maybe a little bit here, people put that kind of mission statement at the top of their CV saying what their passion is, or what their strengths are, what their goals are. Yeah, Alfonso said, is the picture relevant for a CV in Australia? I think it's up to you. I think it's nice to have a picture there, but lots of people don't put a picture in Australia. Okay, I just wanted to ask you some questions. I think you'll all be expert at this, and I'd like you to just type the answer in the chat box. All right, so here's the first. Is it A, B, or C? Okay, brilliant. All right, number 2. The term CV rather than resume is more common in okay, it's B. Yeah, so I'm from England. We use CV in British English. I think in Australia, I hear people saying CV or resume, and in the US, it's resume, isn't it? So yeah, British English. But I think you guys understand both, don't you? You understand if I say CV or, that's right. Yeah, curriculum vitae, that's right. Okay. All right, brilliant. All right, that was really obvious. Next one. Personal details should be written where? Okay, great. At the top. So what's this one? Educational summary should list places of study and relevant. All right, brilliant. All right, brilliant. Yeah, with the first one, tertiary, what does that refer to? What's tertiary? Can you give me an example of a tertiary education place? Yeah, okay, PhD is tertiary, courses are tertiary, but where, if you are studying in tertiary education, where are you studying, probably? All right, yeah, Camilla, it's university. Yeah, so tertiary education is when you're over 18, usually university or college or studying diplomas, like some of you have said. All right. So remember the pronunciation of that one is tertiary, with a sh, tertiary education. Right. So somebody said that we don't put on the CV secondary and primary. I suppose it depends how much you want to fit into your CV. I know that on mine, I just put tertiary. I don't put secondary in there. But that's probably because I'm old. You guys are a lot younger. Probably you don't need to, the secondary education might still be relevant, maybe depending on your age or the job. Okay. Under work experience, list all your jobs with your I can't see that. Okay, good. Your latest job at the top. Good. All right. Unless you're applying for a very senior position, it's best to limit your resume to, what do you think? Wow, okay, you're all experts. You guys know about writing CVs? 2 pages. Yeah, I thought 1 page initially. I think it would be great if it could be 1 page, but I think it's a bit hard to fit everything onto the 1 page. So 2 pages maximum or 1 page. All right. So which of these topics is also covered on many resumes? Obviously not A, we hope. Depends on the job. Okay, great. Languages. Yeah, and if you've done an external exam like IELTS or FCE or one of those, or PTE or something, that kind of external exam can go on there as well. Or if you know your level, it's useful to put that on. Not all employers know the references though, but yeah. Okay, good. Well done, CV experts. So that's kind of all I wanted to talk about with the CVs, because I think you already know how to make a CV. Plus, you probably also know that there are CV generators out there that are free. You know, if you put in resume generator or CV generator, and you can put your information in, and then the app will generate a really nicely laid out CV. Okay, I mean, some people put their qualifications first, some people put their work experience first, but really it doesn't matter. All right, somebody just asked me a question. Which differences does the Australian and English accent have to others? Maybe I'll talk about that later. Good question. Okay, so now let me just go through. So I'd like you to read these tips about writing a CV, and I'd like you to find in here 3 things that you didn't know about writing a CV. Okay, I'll just give you 3 minutes. Sorry, Juan. I'd like to read these tips about writing a CV and find 3 things that you didn't know about writing a CV. Maybe you knew them all already. See if you can find 3 new tips within these 6. Okay. All right, Carolina. I thought you might know about them. Somebody said about the personal statement. Yeah, I mean, this is from an Australian employment agency. And I know that in England, we don't really do the personal statement, but it would be nice to have that at the top. That's the bit where you write about your goals and your passions. Okay, yeah, avoiding the cliches. Yeah, because they want you to do number 4, where you actually use the verbs about what you did, because that will hopefully remind you to then put an example. All right, so I think everybody already knew then about going digital, about putting in links to click on if you're sending your CV, which most people do via email, links to LinkedIn or other things you've done. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, put LinkedIn and your portfolio. Okay, good. All right, so when we've gone through that process, the next thing to do is to have the interview. So in this picture, who is the interviewer and who is being interviewed? Ah, okay. The interviewer is on the left. Okay. All right, Alejandra. That's right. So in this interview, which I think is kind of typical over here in Australia, there is one person being the interviewee, all right, the person being interviewed, and then 4 people are the interviewers. Yeah. So in Colombia, how many people are interviewers when you go for a job normally? Okay. Ah, okay, max 2. All right. And do you ever have group interviews? So where it's the other way around, maybe 1 or 2 interviewers, and then you and some other people being interviewed together? Yeah. You've had that once. Yeah. That must be difficult. I haven't had that. It must be difficult because you have to stand out from the others. Yeah, I would hate that too. All right. Do you have like a psychology test as well in Colombia? We don't normally have that here. Yeah. Okay. It's lame. The psychology test is lame. Okay. Must be interesting though. It sounds kind of fun. All right. So when you look at this picture, at this interview, what words come to mind? What words do you think of? All right, I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to think of 4 words that you immediately think of when you look at this picture. And type them in the chat box. Okay, confidence. Okay. Not scary. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Carolina says, sell yourself and be smart. So when you say smart, do you mean brain smart or clothes smart? Anxiety. Yeah. Okay. To answer cleverly. Yeah, but you also obviously have to wear smart clothes too. Yeah. Rocio, I think that 4 people is too much as well, but I do know that in Australia, sometimes they have 3 for higher level jobs. If you're going for more of a student job, it might just be 1 person. All right, stress. Yeah. All right, there are typical questions, aren't there, that we always get asked? Look, one, I don't think the clothes you wear are important, but I think other people do. You know, I think people think, oh, you know, if you look scruffy in the interview, then what will you look like when you turn up to work? So it's always better to go kind of a level up for the interview. All right, and the body language, okay, it's really important, isn't it? And before your interviews, it's always a good idea, I know you probably know this, but it's always a good idea to rehearse, you know, practice with a friend, because you think you know the answers, but actually saying them out loud, it makes you realize, oh, that maybe didn't sound so good, or how you can make it sound better. Okay. All right, so what kind of questions do they ask at the interview? Emotional intelligence, yeah. I think there are really common questions that you can prepare that we know that people ask in an interview. And what I'd like you to do is listen, all right, and then write them down. Okay. Tell me about yourself. Yeah. So let's listen and write down what they say. Okay, let me do another. Whoops, sorry. All right, I'll be with you in a minute. Here they are. Okay, so I'd like you to listen, and this time just listen and write down in the chat box what you hear.
Why do you want to work for us?
All right, listen again, I'll turn it up.
Why do you want to work for us? Why do you want to work for us?
Okay, brilliant. Next. Oh, yeah, he said, why do you want to work for us? Okay, why do you want to? Why do you want to work for us? All right, let me get rid of this thing. Right, next.
What are your strengths? What are your strengths?
All right, good, Sebastian. Yeah, typical question, what are your strengths?
Why should we hire you? Why should we hire you?
Yep, good. Why should we hire you? Yep, brilliant. Now this one, another typical one, but this one, it's harder to think of a good answer.
Tell us about a time you handled a challenging situation. Tell us about a time you handled a challenging situation.
Oh, that's Nick, Caroline, it's nearly right. Tell us about a time you, what's the verb there?
Tell us about a time you handled a challenging situation.
Yay, good, Karen. Yeah. Tell us about a time you handled a challenging situation. Okay, good. Do you know another word for handle? To handle a challenging situation? Maybe a phrasal verb? Okay, manage, right, great. Yeah. All right, last one. Okay, good.
What's your greatest weakness? What's your greatest weakness?
All right, great. What's your greatest weakness? I don't know about in Colombia, but here people often say things like, my greatest weakness is that I love my job too much or something. Do you know what I mean? I think perfection, or no, yeah, I work too hard or something. Sometimes I think the employer can kind of see through that answer. Yeah, too much of a cliche. We've got to think of something better. Okay, good. All right, because what I'd like you to do now is to, have we got enough time? Tatiana, have we got enough time for them to practice?
Yes, even though if you allowed us to have some question at the end of your presentation, people will like to have
Oh, maybe we
answer
should do
those.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, good.
Right now or after
Because,
you present?
well, I've kind of nearly finished. So, yeah, I was going to get you to practice doing your interview skills in English.
I think would be great. Yes.
Yeah, because what I'd like you to do all right, guys, what I'd like you, but I was going to put you in breakout rooms. I don't know if that's possible, because then it might be less embarrassing for you. Because what I wanted you to do is here, I'd like you to interview each other in English about your dream job and ask those same questions, especially about handling a challenging situation. Okay, and then what I'd like you to do is put your ideas up on here, if we can see it. I'll put the link in the chat. All right, so I'll put a link up here to Jamboard, and here you can see an example of what I've done. So I've put here a strength. So this Jamboard is about where you can write what your strengths are, or a time you handle a challenging situation, which is probably more interesting. But I've put down here a strength, team management and project management. And my example is training people to use technology. Okay, that's a mistake. It should say in the classroom. I'm sure you realize, not on. But that's my example. Okay. So in your groups, you can think of your strengths or a challenging situation, and I'd like you to, you can click on here on the sticky note, and then you can write it in there. Okay. So let me just put this in the chat box. Okay, so the instructions are, in your groups, think of your strengths or a challenging situation and write it on the Jamboard. Okay. Now let me see if I can, oh, I don't think I have breakout rooms here. So what we'll do is you can just do it by yourself. All right, you can write the notes on the Jamboard just for yourself. Can you see it? Okay, there's mine. I'm going to shrink it so it doesn't take over. Okay. Oh, someone's drawing. Guys, remember that you can use the click on the thing that says sticky note icon on the left, and then you can write down what is a good strength to talk about in an interview or a good challenging situation to talk about. Oh, you can't see it? All right, I can see some people have joined. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry if some of you can't get in, but let's have a look at what some people have written instead. Or you can type in the chat. All right, so someone has written, challenging situation. They paid me more than they had to, so I told the director. Wow, that is amazing. A lot of people wouldn't, if you were getting paid more, they wouldn't say anything. Okay. Encouraged professionals to look for better jobs and opportunities in Australia. Okay, good. My strengths are solving problems and analytical. Okay, good. Yeah, and then solving problems and analytical thinking, then you would give your example of a problem that happened and how you solved it. That's always good. Have you heard of, is it the STAR? Have you heard of STAR? Where you give the situation, and the problem that happened, and then your solution. That doesn't fit STAR, does it? But anyway, situation, problem, solution is a good thing to think of, so you can be really clear in your interview. All right, let's have a look at this one. I was working as a psychology intern at a public school, and we had to work with students about topics like substance addiction and violence. Talking about these topics was hard and affected me, but I can try. Okay, good. Yeah, that must be difficult because it might be difficult for everybody in the room, and you have to, I don't know, keep the emotions under control. That must be difficult, and talk about it objectively. Punctual and organized. Okay, good. All right. Okay. Comply with deadlines. Yes, I like this. It's a good verb. Comply with deadlines and meet deadlines. Yeah. Manage a group of people from different countries in order to get an objective. Well, that's a great example of managing teams. Okay. What's the verb for objective? What's a better verb? Instead of get an objective, what would we say? Let me have a look in the chat. Goal. Okay, but what's the verb normally with objective? Something, an objective. All right, I would say reach. Achieve, okay, I would say reach is more common. reach an objective. All right, good. Let's see what else we've got. Wow. Okay. Yes, that sounds a bit very difficult and challenging situation about sending human remains. Very challenging. Okay, because of managing all the emotional stuff around that of either yourself or other people. Okay, good. Well done. All right, I'm sorry that not everybody could see the what people had written initially, but I hope you can see it now. And these are some good strengths that we normally mention. And remember in your interview to give the example of why or when you were punctual, for example, and what deadlines were difficult that you complied with. Okay. All right, so have you got any questions now? Some of you were asking about working in Australia. You know, like I said before, I'm not sure of all the restrictions, but these are the, this is the timetable, a typical timetable we have at our school, and the students come and study either in the morning or in the evening, and then they work either in the evening if they study in the morning or vice versa. So it's possible to study and work at the same time. And the Australian government has just allowed international students to work up to 40 hours a week, not 20. So you can work more. So the only thing we've got to do now is make sure that you can get in to Australia, which we're working on. Is it easy to find a job in psychology? Well, potentially. I think you would definitely need to have a really advanced English level, which you might have, and make sure that your qualifications are transferred to the Australian, you know, that your qualifications meet the requirements for the job. Sometimes we have to transfer our degree certificates to the Australian version. Do you know what I mean? And get them recognized. I had to do that as well. Is it possible to find a job? Yeah, it's possible to find a job without a degree. It would be those jobs that we spoke about before, though, coming in on a student visa and studying and doing some hospitality work or something like that, and then maybe doing a degree later. Oh, Maria Fernanda has said about the inappropriate questions. Are you married? How? I don't think they would ask. They wouldn't ask that, would they? They're not allowed to ask. If someone asked me, I would just answer. But inside, I would feel a bit worried that they are trying to work out if I want to take maternity leave or not. But I think in the actual situation, you just have to do your best and answer their questions. I think it's easier to find work in restaurants and hospitality than it is in offices, but there is work in offices too. And caring for kids, yes, there's work doing that. Well, that's an interesting one about if we forget a word or mistakes. I don't know if you mean just generally or in English, but I think for both, in both situations, you can rectify the situation. So if you've made a mistake and you realize, I think the best thing to do is say, oh, sorry, did I just say this because actually I meant this. Or what I mean is, you know, you can go back and review what you've said. I think that's better than just pretending it didn't happen. Okay, is it expensive to go to Australia? Well, yes, but it's, you know, it's the same expensive as it is to go anywhere in that's far away. So I think it's less expensive to go from Colombia than it is from England, but I think it can be around $1,500 return, depending on the airline and how many stops you do. About the elegant or fancy vocabulary, Laura has said, do you recommend using elegant or fancy vocabulary? That's a really good question, isn't it? Because in Australia, the kind of business context, I would say, is semi-formal. It's not super formal all the time, especially with emails. It's a little bit more relaxed. Having said that, an interview is a formal situation. So I wouldn't, depending on the job, I wouldn't be overly casual. Because, you know, if you are using more educated words, I think, you know, it might make you sound like your English is better if you're doing the interview in English, and it's kind of more respectful in the interview context. All right, do you know when can English travel? Yes, I don't know when students can travel to Australia. We're waiting anxiously for that, but at the moment, the government are discussing places like hotels where students can go, where so that we can have large numbers of students coming in. So those are discussions the government's happening now. All right, Carolina, thank you. So in the interview, I think fluency is good, but fluency doesn't mean that you have to speak really, really quickly. Maybe fluency would just mean that there aren't huge gaps where you're waiting and thinking what to say. You know, having small pauses is okay, but you don't need to speak really quickly in the interview, because the interviewer is listening really carefully to what you say and they just want you to be clear. Yeah.
Nikki, if you allow me, I will answer some of the questions that maybe you don't know because you are a teacher.
I was just
we are specializing in visas and conditions about to travel to Australia. So some of them, they are talking about what do you need to travel to Australia? Well, basically you have to have a visa, a legal visa. Could be a work visa, student visa, a sponsor visa, or the best resident, you know, permanent resident. So for any type of these visas, well, you need a profile. If you don't have maybe the level of English, or if you don't have the test, like international test, like IELTS, Cambridge, TOEFL, PTE, so you can go to prepare this type of test, or maybe if you have already the test but you want to study a master's degree or a PhD or maybe a bachelor degree, so you could go as a student visa. If you go as maybe a sponsor visa, you will need to find out enterprise or company that hires you. So we could apply for your visa with the contract, okay? Or if you have the profile to apply for a permanent residence, you will need to, well, this is a long, topic, a big topic. We have been talking with you guys, I think 1 or 2 months ago with our senior migration agent, but in 4 things, just profile that you will get with the points, for migration, with the bachelor degree that is on the skill list, age between 23 and 44, but from 25 to 32 years old, you will have the highest points for the migration skill. You will need experience after your bachelor degree, and of course you will have to show a test like IELTS, Cambridge, TOEFL, or PT, So depends of the type of visa, you will need conditions. As I say, depends on the profile, okay? So when the students can travel to Australia, as Nikki says, right now, the Australian government maintains and keep the borders closed is because they don't have COVID. Where Nikki lives, there are 0 cases of COVID. Other places like Melbourne, the last week they locked down because there were 25 cases, just 25 cases. As we have here in Colombia, like around 20,000 cases each day. So Australian government by now is not, it's a little bit careful to open borders, and they will maybe, probably is not an official date, but maybe they will open on the next year, on the 2022, okay? It's expensive and you have to money in your account and support to survive there. Well, since October 2019, the Department of Migration, the Home Affairs, they don't ask this document as a mandatory document, it's optional. So because Colombia, by now we are level 1, okay? So it's not mandatory, but if you want to present it, it's okay, it's optional. So if you go for, that depends on the time of your study. If you go like for 6 months and with 8 months of visa, you have to present 39 million Colombian pesos in financial documents as safe account, CDT, CDT, or a current account. And you can present sponsors. They must be your family, like parents, grandpa, brothers, sisters, uncles. And you could present at least 3. But remember, this is optional, it's not mandatory, okay? And if you go for 9 months of study and 12 months of visa, you have to present 59 million Colombian pesos, okay? On the same current account, safe account, and CDT, okay? Even Spanish, okay, that is for I knew about some people from Colombia who had to stay in other countries last year when pandemic started, even in Australia, and they could not return. Very sad. Well, yes, but from October last year, as United States open borders, so Colombian people came back to here, but truly most of our students and most of our applicants, they don't want to come back because over there the work is really good. As Nikki said, the government 3 weeks ago, they established to let students, international students, work full-time. As before, they can just work part-time, like 20 hours. By now, because hospitality and tourism are very, very big industry. So they are letting a student, international student, the government, allowed them to work full-time, like 40 hours or more if they want, even though they are international student visa. So that is a great news for them, for our students, for our applicants, because most of them, they don't want to come back to Colombia. So it's because it's a good job, it's a good pay, it's a good quality of life, and it's a good perspective for apply for a permanent resident. Okay. Okay, this is about the CV. Area, I know some people in other countries. Okay, I can listen. Okay, maybe this is for you, Nikki. Which are the best English exams to certificate English level?
Yeah, I answered him. I put
Okay.
but I made a mistake. I put Van instead of can. I said you can do IELTS, FCE, CAE, or PTE. I mean, if you're if you want to have permanent residency in Australia, I think they accept IELTS, CAE, and PTE. So it depends if you're doing the test to go to university or for visa purposes, or if you're just doing it for your CV. Because if it's for your CV, any of these is good. IELTS academic.
Sorry?
I was just saying, because Juan Camilo was saying, what about IELTS academic? That's kind of a good one, isn't it? Because it means you can use it for university, you can use it on your CV, and you can use it for visa purposes.
Okay, thank you. Alexander, different from those primary jobs and without a degree, it is possible to find a job applying from Colombia. Well, that depends on the profile. If you have an excellent English level, and if you have a test already presented, and if you have experience and a bachelor degree on demand, on the skill, on the list on demand in Australia, it won't be easy because it's not, but it could have any possible and any options. The thing is that you can apply for like your profession, if you are an engineer or I don't know, an accounting or an architect or a nurse, or those type of bachelor's degree and those type of profession that are on the skill list, you can have more options because those type of professions, those are on demand. But as I say always, most of the people, most of the employers, they want to, to have you in front, face to face, maybe knowing that you are already in Australia, and they want to know you, they want to see if maybe, I don't know, if you start to work part-time and to check out your skills and your attitude, your motivation, or, who are you, could be easier because they are, getting you both getting know each other. So yeah, maybe it's not that easy, but it's not impossible. We have applied from here in Colombia. As I say, we have an agent, we have a migration agent, and they already apply for the permanent resident and they apply for work from here. Those are not the most, common cases. Maybe during the year before pandemic, because now the numbers are different, they can arrive to Australia, but before pandemic, we could have like 10 people during the year that apply for a work and they already have permanent resident and they can fly to Australia. Yes, so yeah, that is not easy. Okay, well, If it's not any question for Nikki or about Australia and process, we would like to thank Nikki, to Paola Osorio from Sussex College, from Nikki from Adelaide and Sussex College too, SACE College. And thank you for all the alumni from the Regresa office. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being with us and sharing this space with this wonderful person, Nikki. She always is allowed to us to present their knowledge and their to share with us about her experience. And well, I think we can have, will you guys would like to have an online class with her? We already did like with another uni, but it's really fun. We will see, maybe we will talk with the Regresa office to watch out and to book an appointment with her and look for an online, maybe for preparing an exam, could be. So, thank you so much. Muchas gracias a todos, de verdad. Fue un placer haber estado con ustedes y compartir este espacio. Y pues nada, si tienen más preguntas, inquietudes, vamos a dejar nuestros datos acá.
Gracias, Tatiana, a ti y a tu equipo por hacer parte de este espacio, nuestros egresados por conectarse. Los invitamos a que sigan conectados con ustedes, que los invitamos, Tatiana, a que te sigan en redes sociales, a que nos generen el contacto contigo. Sabemos que tienes unos programas súper interesantes para nuestra comunidad de egresados y más si estar acompañados, pues contigo creo que sería muy exitoso todo este proceso. Entonces, gracias a ustedes, gracias a nuestros egresados por estar conectados y que tengan una excelente noche, Tatiana, a ti y a tu equipo, nuevamente gracias y por interesarse en nuestra comunidad. Que tengan feliz noche, cuídense
Gracias,
mucho.
Laura.
Igualmente. Feliz noche.
Chao, cuídense.
Chao.
Gracias, feliz noche.